On Wednesday, North Korea reported that it had successfully tested a hydrogen bomb. This has sparked debates on whether this country poses a real threat to the U.S. Republicans are saying funding for defense programs should be increased, although federal spending is too high. RT's Alexey Yaroshevsky went to North Korea back in 2007 to produce the first internationally aired documentary in 5 decades. And now he reports on the latest coming out of North Korea.
For many years, North Korea has been considered a closed country, and there is little knowledge in the world about its people and the way they live. What they eat, what they drink, what they wear, and what they have in their minds. I am Alexey Yaroshevsky, and I'm going to tell you in this special report. Almost 9 years ago, when I traveled to North Korea to produce this documentary, things were slightly different. At the very least, the country had a different leader in charge back then, Kim Jong-il, but it seemed it wanted to show the world through us that they were not as evil as many believed. Some things have changed today, but some have in fact stayed the same. The fact that North Korea remains one of the most secluded countries in the world, and its constant thrive to cause a global stir. The latest news that Pyongyang has successfully tested an H-bomb did just that, and Twitter exploded with both the abuse and humor. From pretty scary what North Korea has done, it seems like Kim Jong-il has no soul. There's another one. North Korea is the credit card scam of nations, so I don't believe the H-bomb claim. They are up to trouble, though. And last but not least, North Korea have confirmed that they put an entire roll of tinfoil into a microwave. But while some react with jokes, to others it's clearly a no-laughing matter. Republican politicians responded to North Korea's suspected H-bomb test by demanding more spending on missile defense programs. I mean, what's bad about the will to defend your country? But in this case, it's not that straightforward. Now, Republican Mike Rogers from Alabama called for Obama to dramatically enhance trilateral missile defense and declared that the president should deploy a Lockheed Martin missile defense system in South Korea. Maybe it is a pure coincidence that Raytheon and Lockheed Martin are among his top sponsors and donors. Republican Mac Thornberry from Texas issued a statement calling pretty much the same spending on that program. Same story, Lockheed Martin is by far his biggest donor over the course of his career. And this has been in existence since the early 1990s. Politicians of both parties have cited the threat of North Korea to demand funding for missile defense programs, while contractors involved in these projects, like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Raytheon and others, skillfully manipulated the politics around the programs for funding politicians, pundits, think tanks, and lobbyists, pretty much turning it into a never-ending abyss of taxpayer spending. To date, more than $50 billion has been spent on those programs, and not a single one of those programs' products has ever been put to use, or, even more so, deemed effective. Let's look at some of those. Roughly $40 billion was spent on the ground-based mid-course defense system managed by Raytheon and Boeing, a program designed to counter a missile from North Korea. The Los Angeles Times found that the program was field-tested, even with carefully scripted conditions, the exact location, trajectory, and speed of a missile. The intercept systems still consistently failed. The funding never stopped, though. Another one, and it's another investigation by the Los Angeles Times, that revealed a plan to use infrared chemical lasers mounted on planes to destroy enemy missiles. Another failure here as well. Lasers were too weak at the distance required to operate them. The project was scrapped, but only after Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin collected around $5.3 billion for it. There were several other multi-billion failed projects, including Sea Raiders and others, but my favorite one is 18-year-old project by Raytheon called JLANS, or Joint Land Attack Cruise Missile Defense Elevated Netted Sensor System. Many of us here in D.C. felt weird when one of its blimps broke free in October last year and went AWOL in the skies above Pennsylvania. That seems to have effectively been the final nail in the coffin of this $2.8 billion project. When I was in North Korea in 2007, the world was still very much alarmed by Pyongyang's reported nuclear Taepodong missile test in 2006. Sanctions, international roundtables, defense programs, and yet no real threat from North Korea over that time. The big question now, with even U.S. top officials playing down the alleged H-bomb test, is how much more taxpayers' money will go down the drain of what some may argue are inflated fears. Alexey Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.